I'm often talking about involving your body more in your shots, and it applies to your short shots just as much as to your long. So your chips and your pitches, really important to get the body moving through. And a simple way to visualize it is imagine there's a bar running down that right hand side of your body. So that whole right side is going to turn through the shots. So as you come through, turn that whole right side through your shots, and you'll get a lot more consistency if you involve that right-hand side of your body turning everything through your shots. I know you've heard me say a lot about turning the body through your pitch shots, because I see a lot of people pitching with their hands and arms only, and their arms collapse and the body stays very still. And I'm often saying to you to turn through the shot, but I'm not sure you really understand how to do that. So let me show you exactly how to turn through the shot, because I see a lot of people who stay very front on, they continue through the shot, but the body is really still facing forward, and they get into this sort of position here where they've kind of dropped the shoulder, they've tilted down. So what you need to do to turn through the shot is to keep your shoulders fairly level to the ground and turn this way. So it's going to look more like this. So the shoulders stay level to the ground as you turn through. So that's the important key, is a level shoulder turn through the shot like this, and not so much like this, keeping the body front on. All right, so we're going to think of keeping our shoulders level to the ground when we're pitching, and we're going to turn through the shot. Okay, so give that a try. Practice it first, a nice level shoulder turn through all your pitches. You will have heard me talk a lot about people when they're pitching trying to physically lift the ball up by elbowing up or breaking the wrist through the shot, that attempt to lift the ball up. But there's another way that people try and lift the ball when they're pitching, and that's by lifting their shoulders up through the shot. It's almost like that instinctive urge to lift the ball physically rather than letting the club do the work. So the key to overcome this sort of helping the ball up is to make sure that you turn through the shot. So it's this level turn through your pitching rather than this helping the ball up into the air sort of action. So really important to try and turn through your pitches and not try and help them up into the air. So turn, keeping that nice level movement through the shoulders, so no trying to help the ball up into the air. So I've done a lot of pitching tips over the years, but I don't think I've actually done a pitching basics video tip. So I thought I would go back to basics for you today and just talk you through the really important basic things about pitching that will help you lift the ball up into the air every single time without fail, which is so important, especially for your confidence. So with your setup position, you want to lean a little bit on your front foot and you want to grip down the club. Those two things are really important. And then as you're swinging back, you need some wrist. So we need to create a wide V on the way back. That's really important to bring the club head down under the ball. It's the cocking of the wrist which lifts the club head up and allows you to hit down. So it's the hitting down that lifts the ball up. So we're cocking our wrist a little bit going back, and then we're nice and firm on the way through. That's really important. So I often say it's a V on the way back and a Y on the way through. So the Y between the arms and the club. So if you keep the V Y technique when you're pitching, you really won't go too far wrong. Weight left, grip down, V, Y, and that should give you some consistency. Practice it obviously, but that should really help you pitching. In the past, I've talked a lot about staying tall through your shots and not dipping your head down. As soon as the head goes down, the elbow bends, you're going to duff, you're going to top, you're going to miss hit a lot. The same applies for your short game. A lot of people don't realise that it's just as important to stay tall through your pitches as it is for your long stuff. As soon as the head goes down, the elbow has to bend, you're going to hit heavy, you're going to hit thin, you're going to miss hit, lose your distance control, the whole thing. So we're going to stay tall through our pitches the same way we will through our long game. So we want to come through and stay nice and tall. We're not actually lifting up through the shot, we're just staying nice and tall. We're not going down, in other words. So really important to maintain that height. Finish with this nice solid follow through position. Really keep that height as you come through your chips and your pitches. So one of our green room members, Kerry, has asked me to do a tip on these short uphill pitch shots. And these are quite a scary little shot, or they can be. They don't need to be, but they can be, because we want to get it up, but we want to stop it fairly quickly. So we're often worried about the ball coming back down or going too far over. So let me give you a few tips on how to play this short uphill pitch shot. Now, first of all, choose your sand wedge or your lob wedge. Lob wedge ideally, because it really gives you the high and the land softly in the stop. Sand wedge, if you don't have one, is fine. And then I want you to play your pitching shot as you normally would, setting up left, weight left, and gripping down, and then your V to Y, which is a technique you'll know having seen my other videos. So it's really hitting down and through and not getting tempted to lift the ball up and committing fully to the shot. That's the key with this one, is to be really positive and commit. If we baby this at all, if we get tentative, it's going to come running back down the hill here. All right, so we set up as we normally do and we really get positive. You can see the lob wedge lifts the ball up really nice and high and lands it softly for you. So the key is to commit to the shot and be positive and no babying it. So when you're pitching off an upslope, the upslope can actually help you a little bit. And the ball will tend to go up a little bit higher off an upslope, so you can take some loft off your club. So if you normally would need a sand wedge to pitch, you can go down to a pitching wedge, because the upslope will add height, so you don't actually need as much loft on your club, which is a safer option. So the less loft you have at any one time, the safer the shot is. So when you're on an upslope, we want to get our body fairly perpendicular to the slope if we can, and then we just want to play it as much like a normal pitching shot as we can. Don't try and lift it up the slope. Whatever you do, sweep through the bottom of the ball and let the club do the work. And remember, you'll get a higher shot off an upslope, so you can take some loft off the club. Recently, one of my students told me a tip that she had been using that she'd heard from Adam Scott, and she said it was working really well for her. So I thought I would recreate it here for you, because it was a really simple tip that I think nearly everybody could benefit from. And all it was to accelerate through your pitches. So as simple as that sounds, we don't want you to try and hit it too hard. We want to keep it smooth and feel that it's a gentle acceleration. And it will apply to all your shots. You need that little bit of acceleration through all your shots, but pitching in particular. So feel that you're going to smoothly accelerate through all your shots, and it should really help, particularly on these shorter ones, because we sometimes tend to slow down and get a bit tentative on them. So we want to accelerate through your pitching. Keep that in mind, and hopefully that will help along. Have you ever wondered why you're told to grip down when you're chipping and pitching? Because you hear it all the time, and often people don't even really know why they're gripping down when they're using their shorter shots. And all it is that when you grip up and you use the full length of a club, you're going to get distance, and when you grip down, you're going to get control. Obviously on these little short shots here, we don't need distance, we need the control. So that's the only reason that you're going to grip down. It just gives you a lot better feel for the shot that you're about to play. So next time you're doing your short shots around the green and you're really close in, grip right down to the bottom of the club and you get a lot more control. Do you tend to get very elbowy when you're pitching? I really want you to take your elbows out of your pitching shot. So I see a lot of people who pitch a bit like this, so lots of elbows on both sides. And the reason we get elbowy is because we're not using our body, not turning enough. So you want to take those elbows out altogether, so particularly that left or leading elbow. We want to turn back and turn through and keep it very firm, and the only way you can do that is to move the shoulders. So turning back and through enables you to take the elbows out of your pitching, which is so important for consistency. So take the elbows out of your short shots. So how to judge distance when you're pitching, especially those mid-range pitches, your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, depending how far you hit the ball, that's your mid-range pitching. And that's the area that can be difficult to work out how to judge your distances, what length swing takes you, what distances. And let me tell you what the pros do. They basically have a different length swing for each distance. So they might have hands on the clock. Now, I think that's a little bit too complicated for the average golfer because they haven't got the same amount of time to practice as the pros do. So my suggestion might be a quarter swing, a half swing, a 3/4 swing, or if you want to simplify it down even further and you're just starting out with working this out, you might just do a half swing. Now my understanding of a half swing is left arm around about parallel to the ground. So you're going to make a sort of a right angle between the left arm and the club. Then what you would do is you'd take your sand wedge and you'd take your pitching wedge. You could take your other wedges if you've got them, your lob and your gap as well, and then pace out what distance you're hitting your wedges using a half swing. So if we use a half swing on a sand wedge, it's going to go whatever it might be, let's say a 40-metre shot. Guys will hit the ball further than that, obviously. Then you'd swap, you'd hit a range of those, maybe hit 10 or 12 shots, work out the average distance, then you'd swap up to your pitching wedge and do a half swing on that, because obviously the pitching wedge goes a little bit further. And then what you'll have is a number of distances you'll be able to hit the ball with a half swing, because you've got a number of different clubs. You can even write the number on the clubs. So you can put here half swing, say this is your pitching, half swing goes 50, half swing goes 70, whatever it might be. And then on your clubs you can have the labels, so you know what to do when you're out on the course. So that's a really great way to begin that process of working out how far you hit those mid-range pitches. Do you remember that old-fashioned tip where people talked about tossing the ball onto the green to help you judge the distance? I think it's a really great tip, and when you're standing and you're trying to decide where do I need to land the ball to judge my distance, a really good way to do it is imagine that you're going to toss the ball up onto the green. And it kind of simplifies down the thought process a little bit, helps you get an idea for the length of the shot, and I think it also gives you a feel of the rhythm that you might need if you're imagining that you're just going to toss the ball up onto the green. So give that a go. It might really help your chipping and pitching. I often see when I'm out teaching and I sort of look across the golf course, I see this action that I'm about to show you, and this is how not to pitch. Now what a lot of people do is they try and help the ball up into the air and they scoop the ball up, and if you find that you're finishing with your club head up in front of you here, then that's how not to pitch. Now what you need to do is to use your body, so turn back and turn through and reduce the amount of excess elbow and arm action. So nice and tight with the turn, nice and straight with the arms. So if you find that your club head is up in front of you and you've collapsed your elbow and your wrist, then that's how not to pitch. Now when you play golf, as you come into the shot, the hands lead in front of the club head. So the club head is behind the hands lead the way right through the shot, and it's not until up over here that the club head overtakes the hands. Now if you allow the club head to start overtaking the hands early, that's when you start scooping, that's when you hit the ground before, that's when you might top the ball. So this action of the club head coming in front really costs you. It costs you consistency, power, distance control, all kinds of things. So we really want the hands staying in front of the club head. So that might be something that you can think about that can help you overcome the urge to scoop or the urge to try and lift the ball up, if that's something that you do. So if you know that you tend to scoop up, then this could work for you. So the feeling is that the hands stay in front of the club head right the way through, and it's not until up over here that the club head overtakes the hands. All right, so hands lead the way. One of the biggest problems when people pitch is scooping the ball up. It gets so tempting for golfers to try and lift the ball up into the air when they're pitching and scoop it up and lift it that way, and it's just not the way that we do it. We need to hit down and through the shot, and the loft of the club lifts the ball. So a really great little trick to help prevent you scooping and to give you instant feedback is to take a ruler and pop it in underneath your watch. You can use a glove, your golf glove, and stick it in there. You can use a shorter ruler, just whatever you've got, or you can even put it up under your sleeve if that will hold it securely. But I've just got the ruler in under my watch there. Then just set up as normal. It'll allow you to break your wrist going back, but it'll stop you scooping coming through. You'll get to about then you won't be able to do it. You'll get instant feedback on that feeling of breaking that wrist, so it gets you nice and straight coming through. So it's a brilliant one to give you instant feedback. You can do it without a ball. Just go into the backyard, stick a ruler up underneath your watch there, and it'll give you that feeling of nice and straight through the shot when you're pitching.